Hey everybody, it's Mr. Dow. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we did in week number 1 and where we're going in week number 2 in this class. First let's take a look at what Crypto's doing. He's our class dog. He should inspire us somewhat. Crypto, what are you doing? How's it going? You ready? You ready for week number 2? Huh, Crypto? Huh? He's not ready. Okay, so let's. I made a little PowerPoint presentation. I'll just use that in order to help you kind of see how things are organized in this class. So, week 2 update. Here we go. The first thing I wanted to say about week number 2 is in week number 1, the idea was that you were going to supposed to start looking at texts, meaning the short stories we read or the essays we're looking at or books or movies or whatever, as something that has been deliberately constructed, not random, which means that if they're constructed like little machines, if you know the tool, if you have the tools, you can put them up, take them apart, look at each part specifically, and in that way understand the text way better than you could if you're just kind of passively going through it. So what we tried to do is work on the tools that you would need to take apart a text if it's a short story. So basic literary tools. We did that last week. We'll continue to do it this week. That'll give us the basic tools. And the idea is that as we keep going, you're going to have to work with the text, really actually physically work with it, which means that this week number 2, you will get a paper number 1 short story, which is your story that you're going to write a paper about. And I would strongly recommend that, before you actually write anything, that you would read the story at least twice and that you would work with it, meaning think about it as you read it, not think about it. Use the terms in your mind as you're reading it. Make a printout and mark it up, take notes, et cetera, et cetera. The deal is that if people don't ever get to that point, if they never actually interact with the text itself, at least in college, it's very, very difficult to get anything from the text. It just gets basically just like Teflon, it just slides right off. So kind of promoting that here. In our second paper assignment, which won't come up until week number 4, and you'll be working with the same story again. You're going to have to do research, and when you turn in that paper at the very end of the course, you will be turning in copies of the sources that you use to conduct the research. And those sources must have annotations on them, meaning they must have electronic notation or actual physical notation of some kind to prove to me that you did work with the text. So that is coming. It is something to think about, and I'm trying to promote you doing that right here. So that's it. Yeah, week number 1, become an active reader, use the terms. Here's our overall plan, just to see where we're going. Week number 1 and a little bit of week number 2, you're going to learn the basic terminology of literary analysis, which we started and will continue to do this week. You're going to apply that terminology to texts, learn to do that and do it in a way that makes sense and helps you get towards meaning. And by applying the terms of the text, you'll be able to see how the text is put together, and this should help you define the central meaning. That's ultimately our goal here, is to get to a meaning, which you can say, this is a valid meaning. Why? Not because I just have this opinion, but because I can back up my idea of the text's meaning by looking at the evidence I've gathered and studying all the different tools. The meaning in a short story is called a theme, and we'll talk more about what theme is this week. When you get to writing this first paper, you're going to have to determine which of these literary terms or tools that you've used is the most applicable to defining that theme. It's going to be different for every short story. And that actually is going to organize our paper. So paper number 1 is not something we're going to write at all this week. Don't worry about it. You're not writing anything, but you are going to have to read the story that your paper 1 will be about, and you should probably get to where you're at least able to discuss some of the ideas in the story and how some of the terms relate to the story, and then we'll make specific decisions next week. And the decision you'll be going to getting to, you need a theme statement, a full statement, not just a word or two, and you're going to need 3 literary topic sentences, which are each kind of organized around one of those, one or more of those tools that we've discussed last week and we're discussing this week. That's the plan. It's all about getting ready for paper number 1, which is assigned in week number 2. All right, here are the assignments that are coming your way. First, you're going to read 3 new short stories. I picked ones that were fairly short, so you're not overwhelmed, and they're all very famous short stories, but I picked them specifically because they all illustrate the terms that are coming up this week. So they're all illustrating the new terms. Secondly, the second thing is to read about theme statements. I have an essay explaining it to you because I find that a lot of English teachers, if you've studied literature before, they're okay with a very lazy idea what theme is. So if a student says, "Oh, the theme of the story is," War. That's like, no, that's not a theme. That's a word. A theme is a full statement, two or three sentences expressing the specific abstract observation that the text is making about humanity or life. And that takes more than a single word. So we're going to learn how to do that. You're going to have to do exercise 3 will ask you to actually write your own theme statement using the story you've worked with in week number 1 in those exercises. And well, we'll test it out. Then we're going to read all the other tools, kind of a brief overview of them, in a fairly long essay. There's no way around it because I'm trying to get you to look at point of view, setting, minor characters, symbolism, and irony, and I kind of explain them a little bit each one and try to give you illustrations of them all. Most of my examples, when I discuss those different tools, they're coming from these 3 short stories, which is another reason you do need to read those short stories. When you get to exercise number 4, you will have covered, by this point, you've covered all of the tools of analysis that we're going to use in this class. And now I'm going to ask you some questions about all these different terms. And the stories I'm going to use for those questions are these 3 short stories right here. So again, you need to read the 3 short stories to kind of understand the theme and the major tools, essays, and to do exercise number 4. So that's the idea. When you've done all that, you're kind of ready for paper number 1. I give you the prompt in week number 2. The prompt just basically explains briefly, here's what the paper is going to end up being, and here's what we're going to ask you to do. And then I say, here are the story groups. So you're in one of 3 story groups. You're not doing a group paper, but you're with that group to discuss the story. So in the prompt, you'll see that at the bottom, you'll find your name next to one of the story titles. And at the bottom are PDF readers for each story. So you can read it directly off that page. Then you post a response to discussion number 3, and that response is a group response where you are only going to discuss your story with the other people who are in your group. You do not have to. I mean, if people have good ideas, you're free to take those ideas. You're not writing a paper with this group. You're just bouncing ideas back and forth. I've got specific questions for you to answer, but basically, I'm trying to get your ideas about the literary terms we've been using. Can you apply them to the story? What do you think? There's no wrong answer. One thing I'd say at this point is a good thing to bring up. I think when you're doing the discussion posts, my tendency is to give you the full amount of points mostly, even if I think you're all wrong. If you're trying, but you're all wrong, I'll make comments about it, and everybody can read the comments about me saying, oh, you're all wrong, but I'll still give you the points. That's not a problem. When you do the exercises, which you send only to me, if you're wrong there, what happens is a lot of times I'll say, well, I'm going to give you a 2 out of 5 because I don't think you really understand what dynamic character is. Review the essay, revise and resubmit if you want those other points. And I'm open to that at any time. You can always revise and resubmit. But all you got to do to get the discussion points, just post. So this discussion is just about paper number 1 and learning about the story more and seeing what other people think about the story. If you have questions about the story that you read for paper number 1, which I would totally understand, because again, I'm throwing stuff at you very quickly, and these stories aren't like on the surface, or they just explain themselves to you. A lot of your answers will happen in this discussion because so you do want to post more than once and go back and check because I will respond to every post. And if people have an idea that is just going to take them a wrong direction, I respond very quickly and say, well, think about this, we'll think about that. I'm trying to get everybody to kind of look at all the posts together when you're in your group and then just kind of see if you get a clear idea of the story. Final thing to do is the mechanics grammar review, the sentence structure, part 2. And again, that's just, we're doing just covering things that happen in each of the, in writing that are stem from grammar mechanics mistakes, the things that come up the most. Finally, here's the last thing I want to say today in this little video. Keep in mind you are not on your own in this class. It might seem very much like that since I know from teaching this class in the fall that many, many students right now are very isolated as they take these classes. Not just isolated because they're not coming to campus, but they're isolated because of many different issues and pressures and weird things going on, which is just, I think, completely normal for this very bizarre time in our history. So, again, I am available to you if you need to talk to me on a Zoom conference, and I'm certainly open to answering as many questions as you can, and I urge you to contact your instructor sooner rather than later. So many times I get people who have pretty big problems that could maybe be addressed, so they just would get to me right away, but they're waiting to week 5 or week 6, and it's just there's nothing that can be done at that time. Moreover, we're one of the classes that are lucky enough to have an embedded tutor. You should have heard from Alina by now, and you should keep in mind Alina is not some outside entity who's checking up on you at the beginning and end of the semester. She's in this class. She's on the roll of this class, even though, I mean, she's a professional writing instructor. A lot of times, since she's giving you information about how to contact the writing center and how to contact just her, I think people get a ton out of that. Sometimes people have an easier time showing their work to the tutor than they do to me. So you should use the resource of Alina, the embedded tutor who is in this class. I strongly urge that. There are other resources, Citrus as well. And again, if you have questions at any time, I'm happy to try to answer those questions. Yeah, so just keep going. No, it's the trouble in this class happens so often when people fall behind early and then they only decide to catch up after a week and a half has gone by, and then it's just the class is what the class is, and it's just so hard. I couldn't do it if I was 18 or 19 years old. Even though I was a smart guy, I was an English major. If I skipped a week and a half of this class, no way do I get back in. So keep that in mind, please. Try to think about that. Let's see. Let's get back to full screen. So that's where we are. If you have questions about what any of the terms mean, you should let me know. You'll already find them as I'm responding as the week's going on right now. I'm recording this on Thursday, and I would say more than half of the class has responded and submitted work. In my responses, sometimes if you think, oh, Mr. Dow he's being very snarky with me. I don't mean to be. That's just sort of that's the medium. I only have a certain amount of space. I got to respond. My goal is always to make sure. Oh no, you need to have a better understanding of internal conflict and how it connects to climax. Because if you don't have that, there's no way you're going to write this paper. You're really going to struggle. So I am trying to give you commentary that will get you to respond to me by submitting more, by resubmitting work that isn't done right. If you don't have a 5 out of 5, I urge you resubmit, get the 5 out of 5. That's kind of what this class is really about more than anything else. Is learning that revision is the most important part of writing or learning anything, is to make mistakes, fix the mistakes, move on. All right, that's kind of all I've got for this week. Like I say, we have 2 weeks where we are learning the terminology of literary analysis, and then we're getting our paper assignment. That's the first 2 weeks. Second 2 weeks are writing paper number 1. It's due at the end of week number 4. The week 5 and 6 are about doing the research component of that paper, which becomes paper number 2. You'll deal with the same story. You'll not deal with literature anymore, though. We'll say for each one of those. Each one of the stories has specific social issues that are at the core of the story, and we'll start just researching those. Just whether they're historical or sociological, whatever, and that's the basis of the second paper. All right, and that's kind of where we're going at. Once again, get hold of me and Crypto. We're totally ready to help you anytime. Crypto, you got anything inspiring to help the class with? What do you want to say? Don't. I know it's sad that they have to do all that work. Crypto feels for you, my friends. All right. Hopefully I hear from you guys pretty soon. Keep going.